Thank you for everybody for giving me the opportunity today to give a talk about today's topic, which is about the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. I should put in Chinese here, but it's basically 三皇五帝. Okay, so that's what it is. Okay, the 三皇, it's 3. You can say monarchs. Okay, and then the 五帝, the 5 emperors. There are 8 people. Okay. All right. Now this okay. The background is that it happened in very old times. It's you can say almost 5,000 years ago. Okay, almost 5,000 years ago. So it's basically before actually the even official or Chinese writing, calligraphy was invented. Okay, I mean a little bit before that time. Okay. So it's so it's pretty ancient. So you can say it's kind of like even before pre-recorded history. Okay. All right. Now this period of the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors precedes the legendary first Xia dynasty. Now this was recorded. Okay. There are, you can say, archaeological finds. Okay. There are archaeological finds that date to this period, to the Xia dynasty. Okay, and which we would talk about later because it comes right after the 5 emperors. Okay, he was the legendary founder of this time. Now we call it legendary because even at that time, roughly 4,200 years ago, something like that, 4,300 years ago, we didn't recover any records in terms of writing. Okay, but there are artifacts going back that period. Okay, anyway, all right. So this period is prior to the written language. Okay, and before the earliest dynasties. Okay, the earliest. Well, I thought that they say China has like 18 dynasties or something, 18 major dynasties, if you will. Okay, anyway. All right, so this is basically a history lesson, and you might wonder, oh, what does it have to do with Tao? Well, it's actually the beginnings of what we call the practice, or I would say practice, the teachings of the Tao during this Green period. So this is the earliest point of the Green period. I mean, those of you who've listened to the 3 treasures talk, right? Whenever we talk about the 3rd treasure, we talk about the 3 periods, right? The green, the white. We're now in the white, and the green period was roughly 1,500, 1,800 years, right? Lasted that time. Okay, so this is like the beginning of that period. Okay, so this is a little bit of history. All right, now there are several variations of this group of sovereigns and emperors depending on the source. I mean, it differs on the 5. Well, yeah, on the 5 emperors mostly. Okay, all right. And then some of these sources come from the Han dynasty, the Western Han dynasty. This is the Eastern Han dynasty. Okay, it's called the Book of Origins, 四本. Okay, I mean, so they make references. Okay, in this, roughly at that period during the Han dynasty, roughly 2,200, 2,300 years ago, the historians then, there's this book called Book of Origins, did mention about these early dynasties and the early sovereigns and emperors. Okay, all right. Then there's another historical record, which written by another by a well-known person called Sima Qian. He was the court scribe, okay, to the emperor, okay, to the Han emperor. So he's like a court historian, you can say, or record keeper, whatever. He also wrote about this period. All right, okay, I mean that. And then there's another source is called the Bamboo Annals, which was written, even before the Han dynasty. Okay, it's probably during the during the spring autumn period or that time. Okay, all right, it's okay, but it talks about. I'm going to talk about the reign of the Yellow Emperor, which is one of the 5 emperors. Okay, anyway, all right. So collectively, these are the first 8 patriarchs. These 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, 5 kings, 5 emperors they are the first 8 patriarchs of the Tao, okay, in the Green period. All right. So there is this Tao that we're talking about today, that we're cultivating today, that we're studying about today, okay, that we are propagating today, actually started, as far back as this period. Okay. Now, if you want to go even higher level, the intangible Tao, the unwritten Tao, has been around forever, right? If you read the Tao Te Ching, right, the Tao's always been around. But this time we're talking about the Tao as practiced, as put into use, as being cultivated or being spoken about, being talked about, et cetera, et cetera. All right. Okay. So that's the Green period. All right. So the Green period. All right. So now, what are the 3 sovereigns? Okay. The 3 sovereigns. Sometimes they are known the 3 august ones. 3 august means very worthy, right? Very noble, very right. Okay. All right. Now they are, because I guess because of their reputation, is that they are considered as godlike kings, because they're very able. They're very, they're enlightened. They're enlightened beings, by the way. Okay, they're enlightened. Okay, and they use that enlightened state, their knowledge to develop from that that derive from that enlightened state to help improve the lives of people and to teach them skills and knowledge. Okay, so that's right. Okay, so that's what summary of what these 3 sovereigns do. So the first one was Fuxi. Okay, Fuxi. All right. Now he's that's his other name, Pao Xi. Now he lived around this. Okay, depending on the source. So that's over 5,000 years ago, over roughly, and he lived to be a long time, roughly almost 200 years old. So all right. So now we don't have his remains. We don't know where he where he left. We don't know. We don't have any. Okay, but what we do have is just some of the records of what he's done. Okay, he's done. All right. Okay. Now Fuxi is considered by many historians as a cultural hero. Okay, because he's like, they say, he's like the, I don't know, father of Chinese history. Not Chinese history, but father of the Chinese, you can say, civilization or culture. Okay. All right. That's not to say there are other people before him. Of course there are. Okay. All right. But as far as when we could extend any type of archaeological or some kind of even written history, he would be the earliest. Okay. All right. Okay. Describe. Right. So what now, according to, it becomes legendary, because we're talking about, 5,000 plus years ago. All right. Plus, there's no real, we don't have statues, we don't have images, we don't have any, anything of him. But according to some legends, they say he's like the grandson of Pangu, which is the creation god in Chinese. Now, just understand. So this is not, unique in terms of ancient civilization, or records of ancient civilization, because, if you will, other ancient civilizations, be it the Hindu, the early Mesopotamian, even Egyptian. All right. They all have stories about, they have the father of such and such civilization, and they were descendants of literally like gods or deities or something like that. Right. Same thing with, Judaism too. Same thing. All right. Similar. They're similar. All right. Okay. All right, so this is the same legend. They had twin sister. These are really named. It's like Greek mythology too. Okay, ancient Greek mythology. Same thing about similar. Okay, now, but here's the important thing in terms of this: that Fuxi was considered. He started the Kanji system of writing, which is the Chinese characters. Okay, which is the first. You can say the first. Historical mention, okay, of the very beginnings of the origins of the Chinese writing system, okay, which is back then. Back then it's different from today's Chinese characters, but it's almost like hieroglyphics. You can look at it that way. It's almost like hieroglyphics, okay. All right. So if you look at item M, that's that's what this is. Okay. So it's just that the origin of Chinese calligraphy. Okay. Okay. But all right. Okay. So, but back then it's more like pictures. They etch pictures on like animal bones or animal fur, skin, etc. All right. Okay. But also Fuxi was considered. Okay. He some of the more tangible or let's say achievements that's attributed to him was that he taught people how to cook with fire. Yeah, how to use fire to cook foods, I guess. I mean, that's not to say that human civilization or ancient humans didn't have not discovered fire. They've already, used fire, right? Even during the Neolithic age, which comes after the Paleolithic, right? Paleolithic means old, Neolithic means the new. We're talking about cavemen, basically. Yeah. In the Neolithic age, which is the cave, the later, the modern caveman, if you will, they've already discovered how to use fire. But anyway, all right. But he's use fire, to cook, and also, how to fish with nets. Inventing nets to fish and to hunt with weapons made of bone, wood, or bamboo. All right. Yeah. So, so he kind of like, supposedly taught the ancient people, 5,000 years ago, rough in China, in some place in China, how to do these things. Okay. All right. Now he supposedly also established the institution of marriage. I don't know. Okay. And began the ritual of open air sacrificial offerings to heaven, as well as co-inventor musical instruments. Okay. The guqing. I mean, it's like it's not a harp, but it's like a horizontal, string instrument. I think it had 5 strings, as many as 5. Sometimes 3, 5, or whatever. Okay. Anyway, so something like that. All right. So I mean, all these things are attributed to him. Now, okay? So these are, you can say, yeah, it could be whatever, but it could be just legends or so. But what's indisputable is that he, Fuxi sort of like discovered, or or came upon the notion of yin and yang. The notion of opposites. Okay, of two poles. Okay, of dipoles. Okay, of this entire universe. That everything, from the smallest scale to the greatest scale, to the cosmic scale, everything is based on the, how can I say, the interaction of the yin and yang, the two poles, the two opposites. Okay, positive, negative, etc., black, white, etc. Okay, and then what happened was, how he realized this is, I mean, so this just goes to show how, how some people can reach that, enlightened state, that state of epiphany, right? Of you can say, open discovery. All right, is that, when he, looked up into the heavens at night. Okay, and then he looked down and observed all the, you can say, the multitude phenomena of the earth. Okay, he realized, he understood. Okay, he understood. He goes, oh, okay, he understood that. Oh, yeah, there's got to be there's an underlying principle. Yes, the mechanism is the yin yang. Okay, the yin and yang. Okay, but the underlying truth behind that is that, it's the Tao. It's the essence. It's basically the essence, and the yin and yang is just nothing more than the workings or the manifestations or the functions of that essence. Okay, all right. So that's how you can. All right. So therefore, he was considered as the originator. You can say the founder, of the Book of Changes. Okay, all right. I mean, even though there was no writing back then, right? Don't forget, right? So he did not, write a book called the I Ching. What he did was, though, he scribbled down a lot of those, the trigrams, the hexagrams, the trigrams, and he used pictograms to describe them. Okay, so that's what he did. And it's just that future, much later, probably 1,000, 2,000, couple thousand years later, other people gather up those etchings or those those carvings that he left behind, and put them together and interpreted them. Okay, so but that's what it is. All right, okay, so I mean, and then there's legends. I mean, there's stories. I don't have time to go into them, but there are stories about how he used how he came up with the idea, the concept of the trigrams, the hexagrams, like the magic square, etc. Because he supposedly saw. I'm getting ahead. Okay, so he supposedly saw the markings, like certain patterns maybe, or it's natural patterns, probably not artificial, not man-made anyway. Okay, patterns supposedly on a mythical dragon horse. Okay, now some sources call it a tortoise, supposedly it was a tortoise. Okay, that came from a river, that came out of the river. Okay, and so therefore he noticed those patterns on either the horse's back, the horse's flanks, and the side of the horse, the dragon horse they call it, and also the or a tortoise, and that he saw those patterns, and he came up with this notion of the trigrams, hexagrams, and that's how you get the 64 hexagrams. Okay, all right, 64 hexagrams that comprises the I Ching, the Book of Changes. All right, okay, so this arrangement, okay, of the 8 trigrams will later be changed to the. Okay, so this pre-heaven, this is called pre-heaven. So pre-heaven, what's pre-heaven? Pre-heaven. So this is not a discussion about the I Ching, because that's very, it can be very abstract anyway. Okay, all right. But the pre-heaven basically just means the state of the cosmos, of heaven and earth. You can say the heaven and earth. Before, I don't want to say before, before, how can I say, before history, or before humans are present. Maybe that's another way of saying, okay, before humans or sentient beings are present in the world. Yeah, maybe that's a better way of saying, okay? Because the pre-heaven just means, literal translation means 先天. It just means that it's the natural state, or the I want to say the perfect state. It's like a pristine state, the state that's unperturbed, that's untainted. Maybe that's a better word. Okay. Now, but later on, this trigram is changed, can be changed later to call the Houtian post-heaven during the compilation. Okay, during the Zhou dynasty, that came like almost 2,000 years later. So like I said, the later scholars, or very well-learned people, knowledge people, took his trigrams, in his case, with the we call the pre-heaven trigrams, okay, and then rearranged them and became the post-heaven trigrams. And that's where all the 64 combinations, variations of hexagrams came from. Okay, and so the post-heaven, it just means things that becomes that how I say, that manifested phenomena. So that means it's what is the reality as perceived, or as conceptualized by these hexagrams. Okay, all right. So now, Fuxi also has an important role in the Tao. Okay, it's that he is considered the Dao Pan. Okay, the Tao post of Tao transmission. Okay, the Dao Pan of the Green Era. That means, because he's like the first patriarch, so he was in charge of, you can say, the propagation of the Tao, especially the Tao mandate, the heavenly mandate Tao, because this post of Tao transmission is a heavenly mandate. Okay, what do I mean being a heavenly mandate? That's a separate topic, right? There's a heavenly mandate, right? Why is the heavenly mandate true, right? Real, true, right? Tianmingzhen, right? That's another separate topic, but it just basically means that they are authorized by heaven, by God, if you will, by heaven, who's in charge, who's responsible for, who has a responsibility, who has a certain responsibility, who's responsible for maintaining, for starting this lineage, this lineage of passing on this Tao, this mandate of Tao to his predecessor, okay, to the next patriarch, okay. So he's in charge of that, okay, all right. So that's why we saw, all right, okay. This is ancient history, but all right. So therefore, he's the first patriarch, okay, of the beginning of the Green period, the Green era, the Green period of the lineage of Tao. All right, okay. So that's Fuxi, all right, okay. So it's good. Okay, then the second one is called Senlong. Now he's a very interesting person. Okay, now they call him also. He's also known as the divine farmer or agriculture god, sometimes known as Yanti. That's the red, literally means red emperor, red king, red emperor. So he lived roughly almost 5,000 years ago. Right. This. Okay. Now, so he came after Fuxi, obviously. Okay. So he's the second patriarch, actually. But anyway, according to some traditions, they say he may be related to the Yellow Emperor, which will come later. Okay. Now, what he's known for, what he was known for, okay, also why he called divine farmer or agriculture god, is because he did teach people the practice of agriculture. So this is when, the first large scale or systematic method of farming, of learning how to farm, like plant rice, plant wheat, plant corn, all that type of stuff. Okay. All right. That's not to say that there are ancient peoples, who knew how to plant things. Because if you read world history, ancient history, right, many archaeologists would tell you that, hey, they have discovered evidence in many cultures around the world where ancient people learn how to, grow certain, foods, grains, especially grains. Grains, that's the, okay, like even rice is considered a type of, I don't say weed, but it's like a grass, rice is considered grass, a type of grass. But anyway, okay. So okay. But he actually taught people a systematic way of how to farm. Okay. All right. Now Senlong is also credited with the inventions of different farming tools, by the way. Okay. Such as the hoe, that you used to break up the ground, right? Break up the earth, right? Break up the earth so that you can plant seeds or weed things out or whatever. Okay, dig out roots, whatever. The plow, okay, the plow, which will turn the soil, right? And the plowshare and the axe. So these are pretty so that's very interesting. It's because now these tools, hoe, plow, plowshare, axe, most people would think of them today as, oh, it's made of metal, but this is before the Bronze Age even. Okay, well, maybe the beginnings of Bronze Age, maybe we can say that, beginnings of Bronze, because they say, Bronze Age actually formally probably came a little bit later, but then Bronze Age about 4,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago, possible. Okay, but there are also things that are made of stone too. Okay, obviously a plow made of stone is probably very heavy and probably unwieldy and probably not practical. But axe, right? Axe, hoes, right, can be made of stone or very fine chiseled stone or volcanic rock, right, etc. Okay, all right. So but this would be like the beginnings of you can say the early stages of the Bronze Age. People where humans learn how to work with metals. Okay, metals. All right. Okay. Now, he also started, the notion of agricultural irrigation. So that's why I'm saying that, he taught practice of systematic methods of agriculture, which includes irrigation, right? To plant, to grow things, right? To grow, plants, you need water too, right? And also the digging of wells and preserving stored seeds. Yeah. So, very interesting. All right. So that's very systematic, right? Very broad-based, very, advanced. You can say advanced levels of farming, of agriculture. Now, supposedly, this, since, we talk about the lunar 1st and 15th, right? Of, the lunar calendar year, the lunar, what do you call that? Quarters, right? The lunar quarters, right? And then the lunar new year, et cetera, right? Okay, like the lunar, the lunar calendars, the base, what we call lunar calendar, Chinese calendar, lunar calendar. supposedly he was the inventor of the. Now it wasn't called the lunar calendar back then. It was called the rural calendar, the agriculture farmers calendar. Right? You've heard of the farmers almanac, right? Farmers calendar, because remember, it has to be. It's related with agriculture, right? By looking at the phases of the moon, you can say you can see that. Oh yeah, this is the spring equinox is coming, right? So therefore, things are going to warm up. So therefore, it's time to get ready to plant seeds, for spring. And then comes the summer solstice, and then the autumn equinox. Is it? Yeah, autumn equinox, or what they call the autumn festival, the autumn, the full moon. I think that's the full moon, right? The 8th month, the full moon, right? It's the August 15th, and the lunar calendar. I'm not talking about the Julian calendar, but that's when the harvest season begins, right? That's when harvest, because that winter is going to come. But then before that, in the autumn, that's when all the plants reach their full maturity, etc. Right? So it's time to harvest. All right. Okay. So now but this interesting thing about this agriculture calendar is that it's actually based not just on the phase of the moon, but it's also based on the sun too, on the time of the solar year. That's what I'm saying about the equinoxes. The equinox, the solstice, etc. Right? Okay. All right. And also, he divided the year into 24 solar terms. I mean, I don't want to get into that. There's a lot. I mean, you can find it on the Chinese calendar. Okay. They basically have that. All right. Okay. On the lunar calendar. All right. Okay. So this is very interesting. And so this is very advanced level, because in order to invent, I mean, to be able to come up with this calendar, you have to pretty much you have to pretty much have a pretty good, pretty basic understanding of astronomy too. Okay, astronomy, and to some degree geography, the geography, of the earth, etc. All that. Okay, so it's pretty advanced stuff. Okay, all right, back then. All right, now, so he also has a couple other achievements that you can be credited with, and that is Shen Long, believe it or not, those of you who have who've been who've let's say have undergone certain treatments like acupuncture. You know that? Yeah, he supposedly discovered use of acupuncture, which is, it's kind of interesting. Anyway, anyway, moxibustion, you know what moxibustion is, right? It's when they put I forgot what that herb is. That herb will burn slowly and it'll smoke. It'll produce a lot of smoke. So they put that on your back. I mean, they use a suction cup to put it, and then supposedly that herb, as it's burning inside that suction cup, will how can I say? Will be very will heal, will be therapeutic to the surrounding muscle or muscle, underneath that area. Okay, so anyway. Okay, so yeah, so and also he supposedly refined the idea of taking pulse measurements, shit more. Okay. Anyway. So that's pretty advanced. Okay. Pretty advanced stuff. All right. So now he also instituted the harvest Thanksgiving ceremony. That's the harvest festival, the autumn, they call it autumn festival, the harvest moon, right? During the harvest moon, the Germans have it, called Oktoberfest, right? Etc. I mean, a lot of ancient cultures have it too. Okay. But anyway. All right, so he also supposedly established the use of herbal drugs and medicinal plants. Yeah, that's one of his new. I mean, some of the stories goes to show that he. I mean, now this is legend that supposedly he has a glass. I mean, his belly is transparent, so whatever he ingested, whatever food or herbs that he took, he can see how it works inside his stomach. Supposedly, I mean, that's one story. I mean, that's one story, and so therefore he understood if it's if this herb or food or medicine or whatever, it's beneficial or harmful or some whatever, supposedly. Okay. All right. So that's fun. So therefore he was venerated. I mean, he's considered the father. Shen Long is considered the father or the founder of traditional Chinese medicine, by the way, TCM. Okay. Yeah. Supposedly. Yeah. He's the father. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Now. Okay. All right. Now there is a you can say an encyclopedia, or you can say yeah, yeah. An encyclopedia is probably a bigger word. Is that he wrote about the medicinal value of certain plants and herbs. Okay, that's attributed to him as the Divine Farmer's Herbal Root Classic. Okay, that was first compiled during the Western Han Dynasty, which is roughly 400 BCE. Okay, so roughly 2,400, 2,500 years ago. No, the end of the Qin Shi Wang, the first emperor, Emperor Qing. Okay, okay. So anyway, so it was compiled, but he may not have compiled this classic, but he wrote. There are many that classic is basically made up of all different writings that have been attributed to Sun Long. Okay, all right. Now, so that's considered to be the earliest. Oops, there's misspelling here. Okay, Pharmacopoeia. Okay, it's like an encyclopedia which lists some 365 medicines derived from minerals, plants, and animals. All right. Now, he is also credited with the identification of hundreds of medical and poisonous herbs by personally tasting their properties, testing them. Yeah, that's what supposedly he had that ability. Yeah, okay. Anyway, all right. So and then now this is a very interesting story. Okay, good story. Now some people dispute whatever, but now some scholars say that he was credited with the accidental discovery of tea. Yeah, tea. So tea was discovered roughly the 5,000 years ago, roughly 4,500, 4,000, 5,000. That okay. Supposedly the story goes that he was visiting, I forgot, some faraway land in the south of China, because that's where tea is grown or naturally occurring. It's a natural occurring plant in southern China, southeastern China. Okay, mainly in the mountains, in the wilderness area. And supposedly he was visiting, I forgot, he was visiting a village or someplace, and he was sitting down and by a table, and they offer him some hot water or some water, some boiled water. Okay, that's all. And then supposedly there was a slight breeze. I guess it was during the fall or something. There was some slight, wind. There's some wind, and some leaves supposedly fell into this cup of hot water. But he didn't notice it at first. Okay, and so he and then so he took the cup to drink, and then he noticed that this is no longer water. It's it's a little bit tannish color, right? Tannish, caramelish color, and there were leaves in it, but it tasted okay. So anyway, so supposedly, okay, so that's how it goes. It's a very, very, very very interesting. And supposedly later on, he discovered that the tea is supposed to be an antidote against some poison effects of some 70 different herbs. Okay, all right. So now he's the second. So he's now considered the second patriarch of the Tao of Guian, and he lived for roughly 140 years or so. Okay, all right. So yeah, so these ancient patriarchs, they have long lives. They had very long lives, okay, compared to us. Okay, now let's talk about third, because I have a little less than half an hour. I'm trying to finish up. Okay, now comes the Yellow Emperor. Okay, now supposedly we said Shen Long was related, right? So supposedly like the brother or I don't know, uncle or something. Anyway, but it doesn't matter. Okay, but then now we come to here, the Yellow Emperor. Now this is very well known. Okay, he's very well known. All right, supposedly, so he lived, he lived around 4,500, 4,600, 4,700, roughly. Okay. Now he was credited with improving the livelihood of the nomadic hunters of his tribe by teaching them how to build shelters and dwellings, taming wild animals, and growing the 5 grains, which is millet, barley, wheat, rice, and beans. Okay. So now the list varies. Okay, because they're considered stable crops. Okay, so he's been given a lot of credit. So basically, before him, the ancient people of those times, they're pretty nomadic. They go where there's food, right, or where there's grazing land for their animals, etc. Right? Okay, so people were still nomadic. Now, even though Shen Long taught people how to farm, so when really actually farming is supposed to be really when people get domesticated, right? Because that's when you have to farm land, you have to live there, you have to stay there, you have to build homes, you have to live there, right? So now, but even then, but most people still are nomadic, okay, are nomadic, okay. But now what Yellow Emperor did teach is that say, hey, you know, you don't have to live in caves or underneath trees or whatever, okay, but we can build homes, you know, shelter, dwellings for not just yourselves, but for your animals, etc., etc. All right, you know, how to tame wild animals, right? How to, you know, tame, I don't know, horses, right? You know, cattle, goats, sheep, right? Chicken, etc. You know, pigs, whatever, dogs, okay, whatever. All right, okay, all right, and then go. All right, now supposedly Yellow Emperor also was credited with the invention of carts. That's the very interesting thing. Okay, so chariots. Now, in ancient history, you know, throughout the world, people, well, so that means, you know, people know how to use wheel, right? The invention of the wheel already. Okay, so in ancient cultures, like I think even in the Bible, the earliest mention of chariots was during Moses' time, right, in Egypt, and that's already, you know, what, that's Ramses, right? Ramses the second, I believe. Okay, that's roughly 2000 BCE. So that's 4,000 years ago. So even then, so the Yellow Emperor supposedly, you know, 500 years before the Egyptian. Well, that's not to say that the ancient Egyptians had chariots before Ramses' time. Probably. Okay. So that's not a too, you know, wild of a claim, or, you know, or assertion that, yeah, you know, the invention of chariots happened roughly 4,500 years ago, because we have, archaeologists have not been able to discover relics of ancient chariots prior, you know, to this. No, they reached a limit roughly 4,000 years ago, 4,500 years ago. Okay, especially in the mainly in the Middle East. Okay, ancient, you know, Mesopotamia, etc. Okay, all right. Suppose he also Huangdi. Okay, also credited with also inventing boats. I guess those days they're more like dugouts, right, or logs or whatever. Okay, now, and also non-ornamental garments. That's amazing, because even, you know, because before him, or most people during that period, you know, we're talking about, you know, right, 4,500. You know, there's no such thing as cotton. Well, you know, we didn't know how to use cotton to make clothes. Yeah, okay, to make garments. So people were still wearing animal fur, animal skins. Okay, so he supposedly, and one of his, you know, great inventions is D, or discovery is an E, is that his wife supposedly was credited with inventing sericulture. Sericulture means how you cultivate, in this case, silkworms. Okay, silkworms, and how to use their silk, their cocoon, which is made of silk, to transform it into silk and use it to how to weave the silk and to make clothes. Okay, and that. So that's a, you know, that's a huge advancement. Okay, that's a huge advancement. Now, no other ancient culture elsewhere are credited with using silk, or, you know, having used silk. Okay, so it originated with his wife. Okay, now other inventions supposedly, now this is very, yeah, this gets very advanced now. Supposedly, you know, the crown, he's using real, you know, how to, you know, wear crowns, you know, royal crowns, you know, ornaments, and, you know, throne, bow sling. I guess that's a type of, you know, like a slingshot, like a type of slingshot. Early Chinese astronomy, yeah, lunar calendar. Now he basically even formalized it, or made it more, you know, more systemized. Okay, mathematics, weights and measures, and code of sound laws. Okay, supposedly. All right, so all right. Now he's supposedly also responsible for the invention of the zither. Okay, zither by some. All right. Okay, that doesn't matter. Now another invention that's considered, that's widely, you know, attributed to him was it's called the south-pointing chariot, 指南. Well, it's called 指南车. Okay, but it's a compass. It's a very rude, crude form of a compass. Okay, primitive. And supposedly he invented the Chinese version of football, soccer. Anyway, so whatever. Okay, all right. Now he's also responsible for convincing his court historian, that's the Cangjie, to create the calligraphy writing. That's when the first formal, systematic putting down onto record, into something, okay, not yet paper because paper wasn't invented then, but into like bamboo strips or bones, chipped, how to, the writing system. All right. Okay. He also devised the land distribution method based on the well field system. Jing Tian. Okay. Jing means well. Okay. Jing Tian. Tian means, literal means, I can mean field, rice paddy as a system, which become the basis of future feudal land distribution. So in the Chinese character, these two terms would be literally, it'd be like a square box with nine squares in the 9 equal squares in the box. Okay, so that's how it is. And the central square would be for the ruler, and then the 8 other squares around it would be for the people, distributed people. All right, so that's how it comes. Now he is considered the ancestor of the Han people, which is a tribe. It's a tribe. It used to be a tribe because there are many tribes, okay, back then, all right, okay, many tribes of nomads, right, okay. So he's considered to be ancient, okay, and then supposedly now, here's the interesting thing about the Yellow Emperor is that he sought out 71 supposedly masters, okay, very, very high level masters, okay, masters of the Tao. I mean, actually, masters of, we say philosophy, the Tao, the Tao, okay. Before he attained the Tao, that? Yeah, he sought out 71 masters, okay, all right. So back then, even though they have no formal writing, but people were already, I mean, some people say, oh, they're equivalents like in other cultures, other ancient, so like they have shamans, you can say priests, like priests, or well-learned scholars, philosophers, etc. Okay, whatever. All right. Okay. So he started 71. Yeah. And then so after he attained the Tao, and then he received the mandate, and he became the 3rd patriarch of the Green Era for roughly 100 years. So he lived roughly. Okay. So, okay, I only have about 15 minutes. I'm going to go through very quick. All right. So now comes the 5 emperors that follow. Okay. Now, these group of 5 are the ones who ruled, who led the ancient peoples, of China of that time, after the 3 sovereigns. Okay. Now, these 5 emperors were considered to be the ancestors, the future founders of the earliest Chinese dynasties of the Xia, Shang, and Zhou dynasties. Okay. All right. So here's Cao Hao over Shen Xiao. Okay. So he most sources he lived around 4,500, roughly 500. Now some say that he was the son of the Yellow Emperor. Okay. The 3rd monarch, sovereign. Another say that he was the great nephew of the Yellow. Okay. So they're different, but he roughly reigned for 84 years. Now he was credited by some to have introduced to China the 25-string lute. So back then, these ancient, I don't know, ancient rulers, we could say rulers. Okay, they're very, it seems that they're very, how can I say, they're very well-rounded. I mean, in the sense that, look at the 3 sovereigns. They invented agriculture, acupuncture, calendars, farming implements, chariots, stuff like that. But also, string instruments, medicine, using herbal medicine, whatever. Okay. So, okay. Now, he there's very little that's known about him because there weren't that much many records of him, but he was the 4th patriarch of Tao. So he followed the Yellow Emperor. Okay. So all right. So okay. Okay. Then the second second of the 5 emperors, he lived around this time. Now he was the grandson, so he was related to the Yellow Emperor directly because he was the grandson. Okay, according to Sima Qian. Okay, now as a grandson, so when he was young, he became his emperor Xiaohua, which is the 1st emperor, right? Who was supposedly the son of the Yellow Emperor. So therefore, the grandson of the Yellow Emperor became assistant to his uncle. Okay, so anyway, all right. Okay, now he became he became emperor at age 20. Yeah, so that's roughly 4,000. Okay, and he reigned for roughly this many years. Okay, 78 years. Now, what he did was he made contributions to a unified calendar, astrology, religious reforms to oppose shamanism. That's very interesting, and forbade marriage of close relatives. Yeah, so it's very interesting. Now, yeah, so back then they already have very, interesting religious practices. Okay, so anybody know what shamanism means? Shamanism means you worship, I guess, I mean, it's like, I don't want to say black magic. Okay, I don't want to say that, but it's like magic. It's like you have witch doctors. I mean, that's a very derogatory term for shamans. But it's like, they say, they're like, they can be, basically they follow certain practices. It's a certain type of practices, but it's not necessary, and it's supposed to be based on following nature, okay, or whatever, or but it may not be necessary in accordance with the Tao. Okay, so that's very important. Okay, all right. So that's where the second emperor's, you can say one of his achievements was that he tried to steer his people, lead his people in accordance to the Tao, and as opposed to following all these different quote unquote religious practices. Okay, that's not in accordance with Tao. And now he also continued the patriarchal system of society and was credited with composing one of the earliest pieces of music. No, all right. So he was, he was also a musician. Anyway, okay, all right, okay. Now he then became the fifth patriarch of the Tao. Okay, in the green area. Yeah, I mean, but his reign wasn't that short either. It was still 78 years, which is pretty long also. All right, okay. Then came the third. There's very little about this person. Okay, not as much anyway. Okay, now the third of the five emperors, called the white, also known as the White Emperor. Now his reign was a little bit shorter, was 69 years. Now he was the grandson of Xiao Hao, the great grandson. So he was the grandson of the first emperor. Okay, so he was the grandson and the great grandson, I guess. Okay, all right. So now he was credited with some very interesting things, like a lot of music stuff, like the musical instruments such as bells, chimes, drums, flutes, I don't know, certain kind of wind instruments and pipes, and composer songs. So this means that they already reached the Middle Age. And as I've saying, right, this is already during the time of the Bronze Age. So we're in basically the latter Bronze Age, okay, close to a latter, or at least the mid, Bronze Age is already fairly mature by that time. So they have bells, they have chimes, they have drums, obviously from animal skins, etc. Okay, so he was that. Now, according to some traditions, though, he supposedly had 4 sons by 4 different wives, each of whom will be the founder of the 4 different dynasties of the future, which is the Xia, Sine, and Zhou. Okay, Zhou has 2, but that has 2 periods. But anyway, okay, it doesn't matter. It's just the former and later. Okay, but anyway, now, so then he became the 6th patriarch of the Tao. Okay, so that's the 3rd emperor. Okay, now the 4th emperor is really well known now. Okay, now he was mentioned by Confucius, by Mencius, by a lot of other later day ancient sages. Okay, Confucius would, so he lived here. So Confucius really followed him roughly almost 1800 years later. Okay, almost 1800 years later. All right, okay. Now he's the 2nd son to Emperor Ku, which is the previous one, right? Which is the 3rd. Okay, he's the 2nd son. So they're basically, father to son, or or father to son to grandson, etc. All right. Okay. So now supposedly he reigned. Now there are different sources. Some people say he reigned roughly from these two, these periods. I mean, it's not that far apart, roughly almost 100 years. Now here's the interesting thing. This Yao. That's why he's considered a model ruler by Confucius, is because he, instead of passing the throne to his son, he gave up his throne to Sun, okay, which is which is, which is during this time, okay, roughly 4,200 years ago, all right, 2,200 years ago, okay, Sun, okay, so Yao is very, he's considered very selfless, okay, very selfless, and so instead of passing the rule to his son as the normal case as previously, okay, he gave it to somebody else, okay. Now, supposedly, Yao is credited with finding the lunar and solar calendars for its 360-day year, for the leap year, and also providing for a leap month. So that's very interesting. So that means he's pretty knowledgeable, right? He's actually pretty knowledgeable. Okay, now supposedly, so with astronomy, right? And so he's credited with having built the oldest astronomical observatory in East Asia. You know that? Okay, I think it still exists. Or not, it doesn't exist anymore. There's a replica in China that you can go see it. I forgot where it's located, but it's there. Okay, now supposedly Yao also invented the board game of Weiqi, or Go, okay, what we call Go. That's what the Japanese call it, Go, okay, Weiqi. Okay, the black and white, pieces on I forgot, I think it's on a 41 square, or, by 41. So it's a pretty big board, okay. Okay, he's known also as a moral and intelligent sage king. So he has, very high virtue, okay, very high virtue. And that's to be expected because, he was an enlightened being, okay? He was a patriarch, okay? So his benevolence and diligence has served as a model for future monarchs and emperors, okay? So that's very important, right? So he became a role model. Now, so he was held in high esteem by Confucius as role model for some 1,700 years later, okay? I say 1,800, close, 1,700. Now, he was regarded as Ten Guan, okay? The minister of celestial heaven, Ten Guan, okay? All right? He then became the 6th, 7th patriarch of the Tao in the Green Area. Okay, so now the 5th, okay, I still got like 5 minutes. Okay, so then the 5th emperor is called Sun. Okay, remember, he inherited his throne from Yao, right? Because Yao gave it on to him because of his merit, of his virtue, of Sun's meritocracy. Okay, so he lived roughly 4,200 years ago, roughly 4,200, 300. Okay, now before he became an emperor, he served as the minister of instruction, or prime minister of the 4P, whatever. Okay, now he was appointed, right, to succeed Yao by age 30, which is relatively young age. Okay, but still relatively young. Now, so what Sun did was he established uniform measurements of length and capacity. Okay, so basically, he just make things more formalized, unified, so that you have one set of, when we say, today when we say 1 meter, we know exactly what 1 meter means. Okay, you could be anywhere in the world, and 1 meter has the same definition. So same idea back then, an inch, a yard, an acre, whatever, okay, a mile, etc. Okay, yeah, he standardized, these things, and also volumes, an ounce is an ounce, a cubic gram, cubic milligram, cubic, whatever, cubic inches, cubic, all that, okay, it's all, bushels, whatever, okay, barrels, whatever, okay, it's all that, all right. Now, he's also pretty well-rounded too, but he originated a form of music. So, okay, so it's based on a symphony of 9 musical instruments, okay, all right, okay. Now, Sun, if you those of you who've attended Dharma class and listened to, the filial piety class, Sun, it was held up as a very high example of what we call, having true filial piety, to his mother, because it was his stepmother, and his father. Okay, his father married, stepmother when he was very young. Okay, so anyway, okay, so he was glorified or very held in high virtue by Confucius because of his virtues and filial piety. All right, okay. Now, supposedly, okay, still good. Okay, now Sun, right now, Sun, okay, when he became emperor, now during this period, okay, there were a lot of floods back then. Now it's not just in China, but also in a lot of the world, okay, ancient Middle East, India, etc. Okay, where there's as a matter of fact, the story of Noah, it's roughly around this period. Okay, roughly around this period. Okay, roughly. Okay, I mean, and even ancient ancient Mesopotamia also have epics or legends, stories. I think it's called the Epic of Gilgamesh. I mean, if you guys heard of that, and supposedly they say the story of Noah was based on Epic of Gilgamesh. Okay, anyway, but whatever. And in ancient Hinduism, there's ancient. If you read the, I forgot what's not the Upanishads, the other one. I forgot anyway. But that they mentioned there was a lot of floods during that time. Okay, all right. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Okay, but anyway, so Sun. Oh, sorry. He appointed this person. Okay, Gun, Count of Cong, father of Yu. Okay. Gong, I think it's Gun. It's pronounced Gong. To control floods. Okay, so what Gong did, okay, or Minister Gong, he's the flood minister. He built dams. He built dams and dikes to control the floods. Okay, so that's very obvious, right? I mean, that's very direct solution, right? Hey, the river is going to flood. It's going to crest beyond its river banks. Then you build dikes, right, to keep the water in the river, right? Like that, right? Okay, but unfortunately, there are always times when the dikes get breached, right? Either when the flood gets worse, gets more severe than you anticipated, then you calculate, plan. So what happened was then, he fell. This minister Gong, okay, he fell. So because he fell, because a lot of rivers still dikes were breached, and there's still a lot of floods and a lot of people died. So Emperor Sun then replaced Gong and appointed Yu, which is the son of Gong, as the minister of works to control the floods. Okay. So now what Emperor Yu did was, now he was you can say he thought outside the box. He used another approach to control the floods. So he dug irrigation canals. Yeah. So he basically, so you have river, right? A river is like a channel, right? It has a certain volume, fixed volume. So, but once you have floods, when river gets too hot, too much water, he dug other channels from the river, like canals, to divert the water into those canals. So basically, it's like building more rivers or digging up more rivers. Makes sense? Okay, so that's his method, and it was successful. Okay, so it was considered. So he later on, because of this, he later became, Yu became an emperor also. Okay, all right. So because of his success in controlling the floods, he was considered, he was appointed the general regulator. He's almost like a prime minister. Okay, now what now? So here's the thing about Yao. So Sun, because he inherited the throne from Yao, right? From Yao, right? We say, right? From Yao. He acted, right? From Yao, from Emperor Yao, right? Remember? Okay. So Sun continued that practice of appointing his successor by not picking his son, just like Sun did, right? I mean, just like Yao did. Sorry, Yao did to Sun. So now Sun did not select his son and picked Yu instead as a successor, to the throne. Okay, and Emperor Yu was supposedly the first legendary founder of the Xia dynasty, the founder of the Xia dynasty, roughly 2200 BC. Okay, all right, roughly. All right. So now Sun, okay, so we had Yao, right? We have Yao. Yao is considered the minister of celestial heaven, Ten Guan, okay? Then who is the earth minister? So that's Sun, okay? Yao Sun, okay? Earth, one who's known for his piety, filial piety. So he's very well grounded, down to earth, okay? So therefore, after that, he became the 8th patriarch of Tao. So he continued the lineage. Okay, so that's it. I mean, then the next would be Yu and all others follow. But That's beyond. But as we can see now, this is all history. I know it's not. But I just want to what the main takeaway besides all these, what their contributions are, what their achievements are, and all that. Some of the legendary status. The point is what I'm trying to say, trying to point out is that the Tao that became became a part, that's become a part of our daily lives, became a part of the people's lives, is what started during this time, during the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Yes, granted, it's not everybody knows about the Tao. That's true. That's obviously okay. But there are a handful, namely these 3 sovereigns, 5 monarchs, that were the you can say the holders of the Tao mandate, the Tao in human form, right, amongst humans, and they lived according to Tao by helping people, by being able to harness the knowledge that they gain, or the wisdom, you can say wisdom because of the enlightened state, their wisdom, and apply it to helping the people and governing them in a in a much better way than you would have otherwise, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. So that's the very earliest beginnings of when the Tao is, you can say, formally, quote unquote, formally, okay, resides within the humans. Okay. Now, before this time, okay, the Tao still existed, but it was not, quote unquote, formally or officially taught or practiced. Get it? It was more informal. Okay. It was like everybody was already in a higher, you can say, state of awareness, so that there's no need for this formal official Tao to circulate. Okay. But by the time of this green period, the people were, I would say human civilization is already becoming fairly corrupt, pretty corrupted. So therefore, you need some kind of formal, okay, institution of the Tao. Okay, some formal, and where does it start? It started with these enlightened beings, these 3 sovereigns, 5 emperors. Okay, so that's the main takeaway. So the Tao that we are practicing, cultivating, teaching, talking about, etc., studying, learning, etc., about, is, you can say, can trace this cultivation, this learning, this, all that study, all the way back to them, to these 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, okay, or 5 mon. Okay, all right. So that's the main term. All right. So I conclude. Sorry, a little bit over. Okay, I conclude today's subject. So it's a lot of history, but anyway. So if I said anything wrong, I ask for the Buddhas and sages forgiveness and everybody's guidance. Okay, thank you.